Yankee State of the Union. We're about a week into spring training games. We're about having a good sample size to where the kids are at and where we are with our specific battles, who's showing out, who's struggling. And I have 5 topics here that we're going to go over to kind of get an idea of where we should be. Should we be excited? Should we be a little bit resentful because somebody like Aaron Hicks is still starting out in left field and Josh Donaldson might be taking a spot away from one of these kids? So how do we feel? Leave your comments in the section below about how you feel. Do you feel good? Do you feel uneasy? Are you cautiously optimistic? And I'll give my thoughts at the end of the video. So we'll start with the shortstop battle. So going into spring training, we already knew that Volpe and Peraza were going to get a shot at being the opening day starter for the New York Yankees. So the third player involved in that is IKF. And just to kind of go over a few things with this battle, I really think that Volpe and Peraza have showed out. Volpe's hitting 364 and 11 at bats. You kind of look at what Peraza's doing. Peraza's hitting 333. And IKF is only hitting 167 in 6 at bats. So if you have to put them in order, I really do think Peraza's got the upper hand due to the fact he's got that major league experience already. I think you have Volpe coming in behind him, and IKF is third. So I really do think it's Peraza's job at this particular moment. When you kind of look at how the Yankee lineup has been constructed, too, Peraza's been seeing a lot of time at short, and Volpe's been seeing some time at second base. So, maybe they think that he comps better as a second baseman or a corner than Peraza does. Volpe at his time at second base has looked great defensively. The one thing about Volpe that I've been paying attention to is the type of at-bats that he has. And, a lot of the scouts have said that he struggles with off-speed. And that's because he doesn't get into a lot of deep counts. He's a very aggressive hitter. He likes to swing at the first pitch. Now, as a coach, I like the aggressiveness. I do. I do like hitters knowing what they want and going out and attacking. They're not setting themselves up in bad counts. You've seen Donaldson do this where he takes, I think it was an at-bat in St. Louis where he took 3 straight fastballs from Wainwright right down the middle. Like, what are you looking for at that point? There's no plan. It looks like that Volpe has a plan going up, and that's to attack. That's trying to get the first fastball he sees and do damage with it. Now, the issue is that the league will catch up on him with this, and maybe he will not see a lot of first pitch fastballs. So he'll see a changeup, or he'll see something with a wrinkle in it in order to kind of throw him off. Now, what I personally think when it comes to Volpe is he's going to start in AAA. I do. I don't think he's doing everything he can to make the opening day roster, and I would love to see him on the opening day roster, but that also goes back to what they're going to do with Gleyber. Is there an injury that happens in spring training that allows Volpe to make the opening day roster? But I really think that he's going to start in AAA. He's going to get some more professional at-bats, even though his at-bats have been good. But I do think that Volpe starts in AAA, and I think that he works his way up, and then you see him at some point in the middle of the season, whether it might be May, June, maybe they wait until September when they do the call-ups. That's where I think Volpe's at. I really do think Volpe has shown that he can handle, being with the big club so far, right? And I've always said, and I've said this since spring training started, yes, it's important that they're doing well and they're off to good starts, but can they sustain it and can they show consistency? A guy like IKF has been there and done that. Now, he played last night behind Cole. He proceeded to make an error. So, he's not, that's something that we're used to. We don't really need to go into what IKF is doing because we've already seen it. We got a full season of him, and we already have our feelings on him. I really do hope that Peraza wins the job to start and that Volpe comes in at some point in the middle of the season. Maybe, hopefully, somebody, works their way out of the lineup and works their way off the roster, whether that's with Donaldson struggling, even though, again, Boone thinks that there's a breakout season in there and we're too blind to see it, or if DJ's foot doesn't work out, or if they do trade Gleyber to make room for Volpe. So that's what, with the shortstop battle I'm sitting at. And at this point, Peraza's winning that battle. Now, transitioning into the second topic we're going to talk about is Dominguez. So Jason Dominguez is a freak of nature, right? That's why he has that nickname of the Martian. Now, he is a 5-tool type of guy. He plays well in all facets of the game. And one thing you got to remember when it comes to Dominguez, a lot of people forget, is that he doesn't have a lot of professional experience. That COVID year really hurt him. And to be doing what he's doing right now with the limited professional experience, it's absolutely amazing. He's built like a freight train. He's got broad, big shoulders. He's really comped, I've heard on other YouTube channels, like he's built like Bo Jackson. He's got the broad shoulders, the thick legs. He's a big boy, right? But he's very fleet of foot. He has that feel to him that when he runs, he's not putting a lot of effort into it. His routes need to be a little bit better to the ball defensively. When you're playing the outfield, you want to kind of take a route to where the ball is going to go, not directly at the ball. You don't play outfield in straight lines. You want to take that diagonal to kind of beat the ball to the spot, and he's got to work on that. But when it comes to his offensive capabilities, he's having professional at-bats already. He looks very disciplined. He understands the strike zone. He has productive at-bats. And one of the at-bats that comes to mind is the at-bat the other day that set up the walk-off home run. Tie ball game, 2 outs. He is the guy everybody's paying attention to. He wants to grab the headlines and be in people's face. And what does he do? He has an unselfish at-bat. He works the count. He passes the baton to the next guy. They win the game. That's a good thing you want to see in young players is that they understand that, yes, they might be the guy. Yes, they might be one of the top prospects, but it's also a team game. And if they can help the team win and they have a team-first mentality, that's a good thing to have at such a young age. And, when it comes to Dominguez, everybody's speeding up his timetable. Everybody said 2024 would be a year where you might see him. Now they're saying that it might be this year based on what he's doing. And it goes back to the Volpe and Peraza discussion with these kids. Can they sustain the consistency? Can they be consistent? Can they adapt and adjust when the league makes adjustments to them? That's how you kind of know that they're ready for the big stage. And Dominguez doesn't have any AAA experience. He has very minimal AA experience. So with the left field situation, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, how that plays out will kind of give you an idea of where Dominguez will fit into the major league roster. I hope you see him, maybe towards the end of the year, and let him get a full season, maybe down in AAA. I think that based on what he's doing right now, they promoted him. I don't think they're going to, if they were to send him to the minors, they're going to send him to AAA. They're not going to send him back to AA. He's proven that he can handle, some remnants of major league pitching. He's shown that he has the composure and the personality to kind of handle the rigors of a major league season already. So my final up to this point assessment on Dominguez is that, again, he's as built. He's what we've been told he is. And he needs more professional experience, and I think he gets that in AAA to start. And if injuries and underperformance happens in left field, I think you can see him sooner rather than later. But, again, with these players, especially with Volpe and Dominguez, their clocks haven't started yet. That 6-year window hasn't started yet. So do they wait and send both of them down to AAA, wait for that particular date, and manipulate their service time so you get that extra year out of them? Is that something the Yankees are thinking about? You got to keep that in mind as well. So now looking at the left field situation as already advertised, it's Hicks's job to lose. Now, the problem with that, kind of shifting over here now with this issue is that, Aaron Hicks, like I've said in past videos, is public enemy number one when it comes to Yankee fans. They do not want him as the starting left field. They want him out of town. So the Yankees brought in some guys on invites that were going to be made to push him. That's Rafael Ortega and Willie Calhoun. Now, when you look at the three of them, again, if you were to rank them, Calhoun and Ortega both have respectively 8 at-bats apiece, 7 at-bats apiece for Ortega. So they're right there. So average-wise, they've had the same amount of at-bats between these three. And again, Hicks is third in that pecking order. Calhoun's hitting 500 right now. He looks very comfortable at the plate. Remember, he was a first round pick. He's a kind of diamond in the rough type of guy. Same thing with Ortega. It's kind of like one of those, sneaky signings that can have a lot of fruit to bear if it comes to fruition. Ortega's hitting 286, and he had a big day the other day. He had a home run, he doubled, so he's got professional experience with the Cubs. So, when you look at this now and you look at the left field situation, when you talk about bringing Dominguez into this picture as well, and also you got Florial with no options sitting off on the sideline as well. So you have a ton of options here in-house at left field without having to bring in a Reynolds or a McCarthy, right? They have what they need inside to kind of sustain. And the thing is about spring training numbers is that, yes, you look at them and they kind of give you a gauge, but what kind of at-bats are these guys having? What are they actually doing outside of the numbers? And Calhoun and Ortega look great. And Hicks, again, is Hicks. We don't have to dive into Hicks because we already know what he can provide for us, which is very little. So, when it comes to Jason Dominguez and his track to the majors, I think it's as a left fielder. And not for nothing, the Yankees, with a couple of these guys, are telling you what they think of them. We'll get into that in a second, but let's finish this left field piece of it. When you kind of look at this, I think Hicks has got a short leash. I think Hicks will be the opening day starter to start, but I also do think that when you kind of look at Ortega and Calhoun, one of them will make the opening day roster. And I think that as soon as Hicks goes for 0 for 5, 0 for 8, 0 for 10, after the first series against the Giants and he struggles, don't be surprised if you see one of these guys there and they try them. Now, if they struggle, now you're kind of talking about Dominguez and saying, all right, well, we got this absolute stud who's performing down in AAA right now. Let's give him a shot. They DFA Ortega or Calhoun, whoever makes the roster, and now you got Jason Dominguez in left field. Now, when it comes to perception, right? Perception is everything. And IKF has already been pegged as playing multiple positions and having a different role by Aaron Boone. He could play the outfield, he could play third, he could catch, right? So, but by saying that right now, it kind of tells you Peraza is winning that job. Now, when it comes to Hicks, I think like I said, Boone's an ass kisser. So I really think he's trying to fluff up Hicks's confidence to kind of say, we have confidence in you to bounce back. And when he doesn't, they can say, hey, we gave you an opportunity. Now it's time to move on. And they bury him as the 4th or 5th outfielder because they're already talking about moving Judge over to left field. Right? So these little comments here and there, are they're kind of taking away from what they're saying about the other players. So, when you kind of dig into that way, you kind of get a gauge of where the Yankees are when it comes to their left field and shortstop situation. So, when it comes to the pitching now, this is the 4th topic we'll cover now. So, who's winning that 5th spot battle? Now, when you look at the pitching and you kind of dive into who's doing what, there's a few pitchers that we need to keep an eye on. Clark Schmidt, Domingo Homeron, and Davy Garcia. Now, Davy Garcia is in the same boat as Florial. They both are out of options, so the Yankees have to do something with them. Either they make the roster out of camp, they DFA them, they trade them. Now, Florial, I think, is as good as gone. I know that he was highly touted. The Yankees have given him opportunities, even though in short spurts, and he hasn't produced. So I do think he ends up getting traded or DFA'd. Now, with Davy Garcia, it's a little bit different. Now, Davy Garcia burst onto the scene a couple of years ago. They called him Little Pedro. Pedro was talking to him and the whole bit with Pedro. And the last couple of years, he's been non-existent. Last year was absolutely terrible for him. He couldn't figure it out. I think he made one appearance for the Yankees against Baltimore. But he's also in a specific boat. And it's interesting because out of all the pitchers, now it's only 4 innings pitched, he's pitched the most so far up to this point in spring training. And he's pitching to a 2.2 ERA in 2 games, 2 hits, 1 run, has 5 strikeouts and 2 walks with a whip of 1. So he's pitching really well. Schmidt is right underneath him with 3.2. He's got a whip of 1.09, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk in 3 2/3 innings pitched. Now, Clark Schmidt's a Swiss Army knife. He could pitch out of the bullpen. So, I think that his roster spot is safe. It's just the role that he's going to play. And when you look at Domingo Norman, he's only pitched 2 1/3. He's got a whip of 0.43. He looked good. Got an ERA 3.86. So, at this point, I think that, they're going to give the job to Herman to start. I think that Davy Garcia might make the team as out of camp as a bullpen role, kind of see what he's got. Again, a lot of major league teams like to go with 6 starters to start the season because there's so many off days and pitchers are still building up. So that gives you kind of that that flexibility with having all three of them coming out of camp on the same team. So my overall feeling on this is that I'm cautiously optimistic. The team, again, looks like they have the pieces in place to be successful. Again, this is only spring training. I hope that a couple of guys, if they start out bad, they have short leashes, like a guy like IKF, Donaldson, and Hicks, because they're showing you that they have the depth to replace them. And hopefully the depth can produce. You're talking about young kids here. The kids have been amazing. They've so far through the first week, they've kind of had consistency throughout their game. I hope that continues. Again, we'll see what we're saying at the end of next week on Saturday to see if we're talking about the same things. So tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. I would love to hear about it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you guys on the next video.